All right, coming to you with another lesson notes, and this time working with a 2027 player, a recently new client, who's come to me after having some back pain and just not necessarily having the best ball striking of his life of late. So we've got the before video on the left and the after on the right, and so I haven't done a video, I don't think, from the face-on position, so I thought it might be nice to go over the face-on and what I would be looking at, especially as it correlates to contact and desired ball flight. So just to preface, this player is coming into the session feeling like they hit the ball too high, having a lot of fat and thin contact, and then obviously hitting it left. So my brain already is thinking about probably too shallow of an angle of attack, hitting the ground earlier, not touching the ground. Plus, as you get shallower with your angle of attack, you're probably going to see a lot of pulls. So these would be lines that I would be looking at from a face-on perspective. I would also be looking at the ball position. You can see there's a slight difference there. But these are the things I'd be looking at. How is the upper mass and lower mass moving, and how is the head moving? So those are kind of the two areas we're going to focus on. So as I take this video up, I think the first thing you're going to notice is, well, let's start with the address. You can see the ball is pretty far forward. This player is trying to hit a draw. And so as we take the club back, you can see there definitely is this move to the trail side where the head wants to move kind of down and to the right, to the player's right. Now, is this a problem? Again, no, you can't be thinking in terms of should someone do this or should someone do that. It really has to correlate with, what are the problems that they're seeing in their delivery. And in this case, because his head moves, it would be fine as long as he continued to move towards the target on the downswing with both his upper mass and his lower mass. But because he tends to stay on his trail side, that then does become a problem because that's probably going to lead to some fat contact. So you can see there's an initial bump left towards the target, but then there's that side bend where his head is moving down and to the right. So if we were to go to impact, let's say right there, you can see his eyes are kind of looking behind the ball. His upper mass is leaning right. His lower body has slid to the left, which is fine. And then you can start to see, one of the things I really look at is like, what is the shaft doing? You can see the shaft is starting to lay back a little bit. And as the shaft starts to lay back, you're generally going to start to see the high pulls. So let's go ahead and look at that and just keep that in mind, that this is kind of what the impact looks like. If we were to continue to go through, you see the head really doesn't release to this point. Again, this is a very above average player, but the misses are really the thing that we're looking at. So you can definitely see why this person would be missing left, fat, and thin. So if we go to the video on the right, you can see right off the bat, we've been working right here on a line drill where I painted a line with some Dr. Scholl's. If you follow me on YouTube, then you've seen many examples of me drawing this line. So, we're not doing a full swing here. I am going to post some data on the before session and then the after session. There's quite a big drastic difference. In fact, you can see that that TrackMan data in front of you. So as the player is set up, I have him feeling a little bit more pressure left with the ball slightly more back. Again, we're trying to hit a draw, but I'm really cueing him to hit the ball much, much flatter and have the ball start more right. So there wasn't a whole lot of attention on the backswing. The only thing I told him was I wanted him to feel like, he was keeping his nose still on the backswing. So if we go back, not a huge difference here. I mean, maybe he's a little bit taller and not moving as much to the right, but that's not a huge difference. Backswing's not that much different. Length of swing's not that much different. The real difference is the intent, which starts with we're trying to drive the ball low. So let's go ahead and just kind of play this video out. So you can see there's that initial shift left. That was kind of the beginning of what we weren't seeing in this other video. So you can see that's that same position, and you can start to see he's already starting to move kind of to the right in that one. But then really the meat of it is from here. At this point, I started telling him to feel like his head was kind of starting to rotate towards the target much earlier. I'll go ahead and go back a little bit. So you can see there's not any movement really to the right with the head. The head is staying in that box, which you really would want to see at a minimum. If you start having your head moving outside that initial box, again, you're probably going to struggle with contact and you're probably going to have some face control issues. So if we just go back to impact here, I want to show you something that I think is pretty valuable. And that really is kind of, it's a little bit past. We'll go a little bit past here. Well, it's not totally matching up because of the camera frames. But you can see here that at this position, when this lead arm is kind of parallel, what we'd want to see is that this shaft is pretty darn straight. And if we were to play this out, you can totally see that his club shaft would be more up and down. It would not be falling back. And these two positions are just very, very different. If we were to keep going through, so there's that same last parallel with the club. And if we go here, we can just see the head is continuing to kind of move. So that's just a lot different position there too. Again, there wasn't a ton of form given. It was more about, let's start with an intent with the ball flight, and then let me give you a couple things to think about that are going to highly correlate with all the things that you're struggling with. Again, I talk about this every time I post these videos, but you always want to be making form changes, form decisions based on contact. We would never start with, let's look at the video and see what's wrong with the swing. We would always start with the symptoms of the problem. And if we, kind of like a doctor going to seeing a patient, they're not going to start with without having some type of input from the patient. So in this case, this player is showing up saying, these are the things that I'm seeing, and my thinking cap goes on trying to correlate, okay, what is it in the swing? Sometimes that's going to be down the line views, and then sometimes that's going to be face on. In this case, it was more face on. His down the line was fine. So now that you've kind of seen me go through some down the line videos and now a face on, hopefully that gives you a framework of like, what are the things that you should be looking at? How could I kind of self-diagnose and self-prescribe myself? And again, don't ever discount, putting things like this Dr. Scholl's on the ground. That was very, very helpful for him. Don't discount thinking about types of ball flight. As soon as I said to this player, let's hit a low or flat draw, he started doing a lot of these things on his own without me having to tell him. I think 50% of your range session really just should be deciding on an intent. This is my intent when I hit this shot. And if you do that, I largely think a lot of your problems will be solved. I think the main problem with most players is they go to the range with little to no intent. So hopefully that makes sense. If you like this video, please comment and subscribe, and best wishes at your next range session.